Blog Talk Radio.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Michael. This is Tamika calling from acrazydream. Thank you so much for joining us today. So I wanted to start off this show by bringing in people who I saw doing amazing things, and when I came across you and saw what you were doing, I thought that you would be a great guest to have on our show. So this is now officially our second episode, and I wanted to start the show off by giving you a couple of minutes to tell us a little bit about your current projects that you're working on and what you're currently doing, and then we could, kind of go from there. So, Michael, tell us a little bit about what you're currently doing, some of the projects that you've worked on in the past, and, how it's brought you to this place you are at right now.
So first off, Tamika, I want to say I really appreciate you having me on as a guest, and I'm glad that I'm celebrating your second ever episode of this program. I know there's going to be many more of these to come, and I wish you and the crew nothing but the very best in what you're doing, and you should be commended for the work you put out there. So it's an extreme privilege and honor to be with you this afternoon. I've been living in Connecticut for the past 9 years, and I work as a radio journalist, reporter, anchor, a couple of stations up here in the Hartford, New Haven market. I currently work as an anchor for WCIC AM in Hartford, and I also work as a reporter/anchor at WQUN AM down in Hamden/New Haven. I've been in this business of broadcasting/journalism for 16 total years. 13 of them have been spent in radio. And I've covered so many memorable events in my career. I've won awards for my work up here in Connecticut. I've pretty much built a following through the work I've put out there, and just had a great time doing the work. Loving what I'm doing in terms of putting the news out there and going out and covering the big stories and just enjoying it, because it's not like it's up here. I'm just out there doing what I do. I have the skills to do it. The people that I've worked with know what I can do, and they expect me to do my very best, and I've done nothing but. So I'm actually going to be working this weekend on a shift at WTIC, and some of the most memorable events I've covered have been the presidential inauguration in 2009 for Obama. I was the only member of the state media here in Connecticut, actually, that went down to D.C. to cover that. That was a milestone for my career. Recently, I covered the UConn women's basketball team. They won their 11th national championship last week, and they were honored with a victory parade on Sunday afternoon in downtown Hartford. So I had the privilege and honor to cover that as well. And there's been a lot of other memorable moments I've covered here in the state. And there's so many to name that I lose. There's so many to name, but it just shows that I have a very distinct appreciation for the work I've done, and I've had this passion since I was in high school. When I was a junior in high school, I knew I wanted to become a journalist. Now, I didn't get into broadcasting right away. I started off as a reporter and as a newspaper writer. And I carried that trait into college in my freshman year. I started off at Bowie State University. I did a year there, and I transferred into Howard, and I finished up my degree at Howard in 2003. And while I was at Howard, I was running around D.C. doing internships, covering sporting events, and just hitting the big stories that were pretty much of interest during my 4 years there. And that carried into the postgraduate studies. I got my first job out of college at ESPN, which is headquartered here in Connecticut. I worked there for 6 years in their radio department as a production assistant. That's how I got into radio, because my first job out of college was in radio.
That's amazing. So it's almost like you've been on a journey since high school. Like, what happened in high school that let you know that this was a field that you'd be interested in? Because, some people, they say, it just happened, but it's like, no, like, this is a passion that was inside of you. So what was it in high school that let you know that this is the field that you wanted to enter and stay in?
I'm a sports junkie. I like sports. I played sports when I was growing up, when I was in high school. I like being a part of all the major sporting events. The World Series, the NBA Finals, the Super Bowl, the World Series, the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Final Four for college hoops. And I would always find myself talking to my peers and my family members about the sports that were going on. And when I was in high school, I started writing for our school paper, and I was covering all of our local sports. I started writing for our football team, our basketball team, and that's where I got my niche. And I have not lost that passion ever since. We're talking about going back to 1998 when I was a junior in high school, and then now it's 2016. I still have not lost the passion to be doing what I'm doing right now. And I say that because it's fun work. I mean, if you're a sports fan and you can work in this industry and not only cover the big events, but you get paid to do it as well, that's the icing on the cake. You're working in the industry that you like that you love, and that you're passionate about, and that you've wanted to do. So many people out there that wish they could become a sports journalist and cover all the big events and get paid for what they do. That's an extreme rare these days.
It's true.
And only the few that are chosen that will have that opportunity and have that skill will do it and will execute it and do their best work. So go all the way back to high school is where I started, and that's where I'm at now. 2016, still going strong and still doing what I do up here, and it's just been amazing. I've been blessed with the opportunity.
Definitely. So you talked about that first job at ESPN. You know, a lot of people, they think when you want to do something, you have to start, right at the top, right exactly in that position. Tell us a little bit about that first job at ESPN. Like, what kind of work were you doing in that first position when you started?
Well, let me tell you how I got to ESPN first. It wasn't easy. When I got out of college from Howard in 2003, I was struggling to find work because at the time the industry was very, it wasn't really fruitful. There was a lot of layoffs going on. There was a lot of cutbacks. So for the time being, I struggled to find work in the industry that I had gotten my degree in. And I was working at a grocery store overnight stocking shelves while I was out there putting out resumes left and right. And then I went to a convention in Dallas in that same year and dropped off my resume and applications to the ESPN people that were recruiting. And then I got back to New Jersey where I was living at the time, and I got a phone call one morning, and the ID showed that it was ESPN. So I answered the phone, and, of course, the guy on the other end of that phone was someone who was recruiting for a job at ESPN. And he asked me, how would I like to work for ESPN? I said, of course, it's a sports fan's dream like myself. I would love to be working at a major network like ESPN. So met with him. I drove up from New Jersey to Connecticut and met with him in person. We talked. He showed me around the campus. The campus was much smaller then. Now it's humongous. It's almost looking like an amusement park. It's so big now. And at the time, he showed me all over the place. I met with the people that were hiring for the position. And then a week later, after I had finished up with that process, I got a phone call from him again, and he told me I had gotten the job. Test was I had to move to Connecticut within 2 weeks. And mind you, I was nowhere near ready to move or relocate anywhere at the time because I was still in that transition mode of just getting things with college. So here I am, rushing and scrambling to try to find a way to get to Connecticut, and they did tell me they were going to work out all the logistics. They got me temp housing up there while I was able to find my own place, and I was able to work because they needed me to start right away. It was one of the busiest times of the season with baseball and basketball and football taking place. They needed some help, so they need not me wait too much longer to get up there. And after that, I got up there, and I did what I had to do for 6 years. I worked on some of the big shows. I worked with a lot of different personalities. I met people. It was, there were some good times, there were some bad times, there were some not so great times, but for the most part, it was a great experience, and I was proud of the work I did there, and I felt that in 2009, it was time to go in a different direction, so I left the company, and I pursued doing stuff more locally here in Connecticut, and I have not looked back on that ever since, and to this day, I'm really happy with what I've done.
I love that. That's amazing. So I love that you talk about the fact that you were stocking shelves. Like, some people were probably looking at you like, did you tell people about your plans, or like what did you envision yourself doing at that point when you were stocking those shelves? Like, when you applied for that job, like, what was your vision? Did you see yourself becoming a caster? Like, what was your vision at that time in life?
I wanted to be a sports journalist because that's what I have spent all my energy at Howard University for, was to get that degree and become a sports journalist after I graduated. Didn't happen right away because, again, it's not just me. A lot of college students go through that same process and that same transition. When you're about to graduate, you're trying to find that first big break out of school. We're all applying for the same jobs. We're all competing for that same opportunity. it's not going to happen right away. For some people, it does, different strokes for different folks. But for most of us, you ask any journalist, Tamika, and they'll probably tell you that they have a story to share about how they started at the bottom, and the quote Drake, started from the bottom, now they're here. Because that's what it was. They had to start at the very bottom of the totem pole and work their way up to the top of the food chain. And let me tell you, it doesn't happen overnight. For some people, they are fortunate that it might. For me, it did not happen overnight. A lot of us have to pay our dues, and I think that's one issue that has plagued our generation, is that some of us don't understand. You have to roll up your sleeves, and you have to put in the work. If you want to be successful, listen, life is challenging as it is. No one said life is going to be easy. I still go through challenges now. But if you really want to make something of life, you have to be willing to sacrifice, put up with a lot of stuff, and just deal with it. Because only those who are suitable and are willing to do this will be the ones that come out on top. If you're determined to do it, you'll do it. If you're passionate about it, you'll do it. If you really want it that bad, you'll do whatever it takes, no matter what people say or whatever obstacles are thrown at you. You will go out there and you will get the job done, and you will make the most of it. I can't stress that enough to our younger generation.
Yes. Yeah, actually, I know that you also mentor, correct? Like, you're a mentor.
Absolutely. I'm telling this to the same folks I mentor. I mentor a lot of folk up here in Connecticut, even though a lot of them do live around the country. Some of them live down in the Washington, D.C. area, but I do manage to keep my lines of communication open even from up here in Connecticut. So it's not that I can't talk to them. I always tell them, though, my line is open if you want to talk. I mean, I try not to do too much social media because I think that we need to talk and hear our voices and get a better perspective on what it is you want to do. And I also get to hear your sincerity, too, because one thing about me, I take great pride in what I do. I'm very passionate about my work. And I want to work with those who are on that same level as me. Not everybody's going to be on that same level, but if you show me an inkling that you really want to do this, I'm willing to go and bend over backwards to make it work. It's just that I put in 200%. I expect you to do the same thing, if not more. You know what I mean? It's not that I don't think you can do it. It's just that a lot of us want to be this. We could say, oh, I want to be this. I want to do that. I want to do this. I want to do that. That's all well and good. The question is, are you willing to take those chances and make those sacrifices to make it happen? That's the real That's the real challenge. Can you do that? If you were throwing an obstacle at you right now, how are you willing to handle it? What kind of adversity can you withstand if you're put in that position?
It's true.
We're all going to go through it. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. Like, for example, when you talk about the fact that you had to make that move, you know, almost instantly, some people would have said, no, like, I can't do this. Like, it's too soon. But said, like, you went with it. Like, do you feel that at those certain moments that some kind of synchronicity was going on, like things were just happening, like you just decided to go to that place where ESPN would be at, where you could submit your resume, like how these things just started to take place? Was it like you were moving with like a purpose, or, you know, what was it that was motivating you? Like, what is the purpose that you feel that's like motivating you right now and what you do to make?
Because I am excited about being a part of what I do. It's about the big stories that people want to be a part of and want to be able to cover and say that, you know what, I was there. I was there for Obama's inauguration. I was there the night Kobe scored 60 points last night during his final game. I was there the night the Warriors won 73 games. I was there the night the Yankees won the World Series. I was there the night that the UConn women's basketball team won their 11th national championship and had set a historical moment for college sports in general. I want to say I was there to cover the big story about Obama being elected. I want to say I was there to cover the new anything that is like newsworthy. I want to say I was there at the Grammys. I was there when I saw history made at the Academy Awards. Those are the moments that you want to be a part of, and you can say to your peers that this is what I was a part of. I did this. And listen, I can't take all the credit for the work I've done. I've had a lot of support from people, including my family and those around me who have worked with me to get me to where I'm at. But truth be told, I did take it and I ran with it because it was something that I wanted to do, and they were all in agreement with what my approach was. So if you bring ideas to the table and it makes sense, they'll work with you. And if you do it, which is the most important thing, the idea is there. Now let's make it happen. Then you're on.
Exactly. Because it's like the thought is there, right? But thoughts require action, to become, real. So action is
strike while the iron's hot, as I like to call it.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry. It's called strike while the iron is hot, is like I call it. While the iron is hot, strike.
Yeah. Striking. I love it. So for somebody who might be interested in journalism, period, like what are some of the things that you would suggest for someone who wants to enter this field? Like what steps should they take? What things should they do?
One thing you have to be willing to do is you have to be willing to make sacrifices, because a lot of us are not going to enter the field making $1 million in this business. It's not going to happen. People that are in the industry now that you see on TV every morning or hear about or read about, those are the ones who've been in the business for over 20-something years and have made the most of it, and they've paid their dues to get where they're at now. That's why they're able to make that kind of money. So for anyone starting off, you're going to have to start at the bottom. You're going to have to get used to moving someplace different that you've never heard of. Some of us may be very fortunate that we have connections and we know somebody that can get us a job somewhere that's the gates. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay your dues. You're going to have to work hard. You have to be willing to do the work. There's no shortcuts. A lot of journalists you see on TV, they didn't take shortcuts. They have to work. We've had to make sacrifices. Yeah. We've had to work on holidays. We've had to work weekends. We've had to spend time away from our families during those times of year, like we used to go home during Christmas or Thanksgiving. If you're just starting off, get ready to work holidays because you're not going to be around as much. You have to pay your dues like everybody else did, and then eventually when you earned your stripes, as I like to call it, then you'll be able to get that, privilege of having that time off to where you can enjoy the fruits of your labor. Also, you have to be willing to make moves. You have to be willing to keep connections with people. You have to be willing to network. You have to be willing to be a sponge. You have to just work hard and keep your options open. Don't get too comfortable in one position. I mean, if you feel like you want to move elsewhere and move up in rank and advance, then keep looking. You got to be grinding. You got to hit the pavement. That's the best advice I could tell anybody. You just have to, and also, and this is one of the most important things I tell people, because in our industry, listen, I'm sure you know this as a radio show host and what you do for a living. You probably have had these encounters with people already. Not everybody is rooting for you. So you got to watch your circle, and you have to be mindful of who you align yourself with, because unfortunately, not everybody is righteous in this world today. People are going to be very envious and jealous of what you've accomplished, and they're going to feel like that they should be in front of you and you shouldn't be where you're at. For their own vendetta and their own personal reasons, that has nothing to do with you. You can be the nicest person on the face of the planet, but that doesn't mean that people are going to respect you. Just because they feel like they want something that you have, they're willing to go to major lengths to throw you off your track and take it from you. So one thing that you also should be mindful is who you talk to and who you align yourself with. Make sure you know the people that are with you and are going to support it, because you know quickly. When you go through trials and tribulations, Tamika, you find out quick who is going to be on your side and who's not going to be on your side. It's really easy. When you go through challenges in life, you will find out who your true supporters are versus those who are just there for a season. You get my drift?
I get your drift.
Because that's the way life is. Unfortunately, we live in a society where not everybody is anymore. It's unfortunate, especially in our line of work, because it's so competitive that people are just fighting for our jobs every day. So you got to protect what you've earned, too, and not let anybody come in and try and step on your toes or just, run your ship. You got to defend it. You work for it. You got to you got to earn it. You got to hold on to it.
Definitely. So how do you select the people that you work closest with? Like, how do you choose those people that you align yourself with? What kind of things do you consider? What factors?
The people I've worked with, Tamika, knew already that I was aggressive, that I wanted to do this work. And that's how you could tell when somebody's serious about success, because they will show you better than they can tell you. Because anybody can tell you anything about what they want to do. But as I mentioned earlier, it's about the effort and the action. You can tell me a whole bunch of stuff that you want to do right now, but the question is, can you do it? And when they see you're consistently doing it, you're constantly banging on their door or knocking on their door or making phone calls, doing whatever, you're constantly reaching out and asking questions, that's the kind of people you know for sure that are willing to do the work and you want to be closely attached to, because then you know for sure that they're not just messing around or playing games or wasting your time. They want this. It's real easy. It's called vibes. You get vibes. People have vibes. When people have a certain vibe about you, they can tell. if they get a vibe that, I don't know about this person, he or she doesn't sound like she's really that sincere, you will know just by instinct exactly how a person is going to come off. You'll know just by their body language. If you know for a fact that, like, that's why we connected, Tamika, because I'm sure you knew the way you were asking me all these questions off the air about what I was doing, I'm sure you would have gotten that vibe already. I'm telling you, if you would have known right from the bat, if you did not want to align yourself or get me on your show, you would have known that right from the get-go when we started talking off of Twitter. You would have gotten that vibe that I don't know about this guy, okay? You saw me. I was responding with rapid-fire answers. I was not messing around. This is what I do.
I love it. No, and I love that, you're willing to even, educate me in the process of even just going through this with me, because I look to people like you, like, even though I might not ever work with you directly, and who knows what the future holds, I still look at it like I can learn from you and your experiences, and that you're like a wealth of information. So it's like you're a teacher in your own right. It's like you're a teacher, period, actually. So that's
things in life happen for a reason, too. I also believe that. I mean, there's a reason why things do happen. If they weren't meant to happen, they wouldn't happen. I'm just a firm believer in that. I mean, when people are connected for a reason, you may not see it at first, but eventually it catches on. You'll say, that's why we were connected. Now I see this. Exactly. Now I see it. Now I get it.
Exactly. A lot of times, like, even when you talk about your story, I'm sure that when you went and, you probably knew that you could do it, but of course in your mind it's like almost like, could that really be real? It's like you ask yourself, like, could I really make that happen? And I love what you said. It's like, it's not so much about where you start. It's like you have to put in that work. Like you said, you might have to move. You might have to move yourself. Like some people are so attached to where they are that holds them back, because they just won't move. They won't change. They won't open themselves to like new options and, new possibilities, basically.
Right, because they get too complacent and they feel like that's all they're good for is to stay in one place. But listen, a lot of journalists in this industry that you see, mostly the famous ones, or probably have heard about, that have become household names. If you read their bios, you'll read that they started off in a major market, a city that's probably no one has ever heard of, out in the Midwest somewhere. And they had to move around a little bit until they got back to the major cities that they grew up in, like a New York or a D.C. or a Boston or a Hartford or in Atlanta or any other, or in L.A. or anywhere else that that has a lot of people and a lot of money and a lot of fame and a lot of fortune. It's just the way it is. Some of us may not have to take that similar path. I mean, listen, when I left Howard, Tamika, I did not envision myself coming to Connecticut when I graduated. I wanted to stay in D.C. I was one of those folks that had that envision. Oh, here I am. I'm getting ready to graduate from Howard. I got my degree. I made my connections here in D.C. I'm loving what I'm doing down here. I know a lot of people here. I'm ready to stay down here now. I don't want to go back to New Jersey. I want to stay here. I want to live here. I want to work. That's not what was planned for me, because I moved back to New Jersey, and from there I went to Connecticut, and that's where I'm at now. So now I'm seeing that there was a reason for me to be here in Connecticut, even though I was really sold on wanting to stay in Washington, but that didn't happen. And listen, I still keep my connections open with Washington people now. I do. I know a lot of people down there. We talk off social media. We sometimes text each other back and forth. My best friend lives down there. So I do keep my lines of communication open with them. It's just that it seems that a bigger purpose was meant for me to be here in Connecticut and nowhere else. And as a result, it's paid dividends.
Yeah. So, Michael, when considering like journalism, because we have a lot of like blogging, this is like almost like for journalism is becoming blogging in a sense, it's like the way journalism and information moves now. It's like anyone can write and create a following and in a sense, do something of this nature. Like what advice do you have for that person who might not be in school but who's really interested in writing and, maybe doing journalist work, like becoming a journalist or becoming a news anchor? Like what advice do you have for that person?
Just be a news junkie. Watch TV. Listen to the radio. Yeah. Read the newspaper. Become immersed in the field. Just watch the news. Listen, I watch the nightly news every night before I go to bed. The 11 o'clock news. I'm a radio guy. I'm a radio head. So I'm in my car. I listen to news radio. I listen to sports talk radio because, for one, I work in the business, so I know I got to be prepared and learn and know what's going on in the world each day before I take to the airways behind the microphone, before I deliver my anchoring duties. You know what I mean? I have to make sure I'm prepared to talk about what's going on. One thing you never want to do is lose sight of what's going on in the world. That's why I tell people, read, watch, listen. Do all three of those and do it regularly.
Yeah.
I was told to study TV one time because if people want to be on TV, one professor told me that don't watch TV, study it. Study how they do things. Study how they produce elements. Study how the anchors speak. Study their style. Watch how they go about conducting their reports. Same thing with writing. Read the newspaper. Read. Listen, the key to that is you have to read. You have to read. If you're going to be a journalist, number one, you have to be able to read. You cannot be a reporter or a journalist if you don't know how to read. And I'm not being funny here. You have to pick up books, newspapers, magazines, whatever it is that has any type of text in it, and you have to read it. And you have to read it regularly. That's how you become good at your craft. You read and you learn how they write, and then you start to apply it to what you want to write, and then as you start to write and develop a niche, and then you start to get better at it, then you find yourself becoming a good writer. And I've always been told, practice makes perfect. The more you do it, the better you get at it. That's with anything in life. The more you practice, the better you get at it. I struggled before, and people told me that, listen, you've gotten a lot better, it's improvement, and that's the thing. As long as you're improving and not going backwards, that's what counts. Because it could be one thing that you're doing the work, but if you're not showing any sort of improvement in the quality of the work that you do, that's it's not going to help you. So you have to be able to do it and get better at it. And the better you get at it, the more you see your own improvement. And you'll know, because you'll know that, okay, I know I'm doing this now. And then when you hear it from your superiors, of course, is when you know for sure you're doing it right, because they'll tell you that you're doing it right. You've gotten better at it, and we know you're doing it. Otherwise, you won't be working. It's just that simple. They'll fire you.
Yeah.
But really, that's
Yeah.
how you get better at your craft. You just do it and do it and do it and do it as often as possible. And as you do it, you get better at it. It's just that simple.
Oh, I love that. I love that you talk about the importance of reading and writing because, in my experience, that applies across the board. If there's anything, like reading and writing are two skills that you should be able to do, period, but especially like reading for fun and then reading non-fictional and fictional work because that is where information is. It's usually in books, and then there are references, and then you can actually check facts and compare things and think critically about what you're taking in and not just be repeating what you read. You know what I mean?
Right, and that's the thing. You have to be. Listen, you got to read. I can't stress that enough. That's a prerequisite for writing and doing journalism work. You have to be able to read. You cannot be on the air or a writer or anything in this line of work if you can't read.
Yeah.
That's a pet peeve of mine. You have to read.
Yeah. No, people, please. I'm read books. The library is free.
Read books. Read
library,
anything. Listen, I'm a library. Listen, I read books a lot now. I mean, I wasn't a big time avid reader for a while too when I was growing up, but then I started doing a lot more reading, and I've seen that has helped my craft because when you read, you can learn the words better, you know the vocabulary and what they mean, and you get to write that down on paper, and you start to formulate sentences, and then you see you're doing better at that, and then you can start to become a good writer doing it that way.
Yeah, and I love that you said, actually doing something is what helps you get better because, it's repetition. If you keep doing it, of course you're going to get better because you're going to learn from your mistakes. Yesterday we had some technical issues, and I did the show anyway because I'm you know what? At the end of the day, this is still a way for me to learn and grow right now. So I can either end the call or I can continue on and still have this experience. So it's like life, what so much of what you said is regardless of what's happening, remember, you have to keep moving forward, keep learning, keep growing. Michael, I wanted to ask you, what is your dream, your crazy dream? What do you envision for the future? What do I
envision for the future? Well, listen, I'm only 30. I'm going to be 35 years old this August, and I've been in this business for 16 years now. I don't think I've accomplished a lot right now. I really don't. People will look at me and say, "Are you crazy?" I say yes because I still feel like it's like any other person that feels like they have a lot to prove. And even though they may have accomplished a lot in life, you still feel deep down inside you still have a lot of work left to do. And that's how I feel right now from where I stand. I still have a long ways to go. So ultimately, I want to be able to cover the big events like the Grammys or the major sporting events. Listen, I've covered the president already. I've covered historical milestones here in Connecticut alone, and the best I feel is yet to come. And as long as I continue to work at what I do and keep pushing, I'm going to get there. Ultimately, I want to be a reporter for a major sports team and covering what they do and eventually culminate in that with a championship, whether it be collegiate or professional, because I'm a big college sports fan too. So it doesn't matter to me. I just like to be a part of history. And that's one thing I like to look back on my career and say, I was a part of not just American history, but world history. Covering the inauguration in 2009 when Obama was in D.C., that was not American history. That was world history. And now I can say to my kids one day that, yes, your father or any of my peers, yes, your mentor was in D.C. the night, or the day rather, that President Barack Hussein Obama got sworn in as the 44th president. I was down there, and I was here to cover it.
Yeah, and you shared that story with the world.
Because you may never, ever see history like this ever again. That's why you're blessed to live and be a part of these moments. The UConn women's basketball team making history last week. We may never, ever see anything like this in all sports again. 4 straight championships, 11 overall, and the way they dominated the game this year, they were expected to win. That's why it wasn't such a big deal amongst the fans up here, because we knew that they were that good, and they were expected to win the championship the way they were playing. So to be a part of that historical moment, because, again, we like to be a part of history. I'm sure you want to be a part of history, and you can say to your peers and your kids one day, yes, I was a part of this. I was there. And that's how you make more connections, because people can say, wow, you did this? Yes, I did this. And I have the proof to show you that I was a part of it.
Yeah. You know, it's so interesting. Like, I think that history is made every day. Like, every decision we make, everything is world history. You know what I mean? You know? So I love just the fact that it's like, you know, sharing those stories, because we need to share stories. Like, it's almost like we're losing a lot of the stories because of the way that we communicate, and through conversation, like through these kinds of exchanges, we are able to learn more of the story, you know, and I love that, and I love that you do that. And I wanted to ask you, you know, because I know that you have a busy day, I wanted to just ask you if you could tell us a little bit about the scholarship that you're currently offering, because I did see that your association that you're a part of, I wanted you to talk about that if you don't mind. You know,
absolutely.
Just so people know about that, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not sure if the listeners are from Connecticut, Rhode Island, or Massachusetts, but I am the vice president for broadcast for the Southern New England Association of Black Journalists, which is an affiliate chapter of the National Association of Black Journalists. We are now offering scholarships for students in high school, preferably seniors, and anybody that's a student in college that has aspirations to be a journalist. And we're offering 3 $1,000 scholarships to anyone who can apply and has a interesting story to share with us about why they want to become a journalist. And again, this is open to students in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts, because we're a 3-state chapter, and those are the 3 states we serve: Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. You can find out more about this scholarship by following us on Twitter. The Twitter handle is SNEABJ. On the website, we're at sneabj.weebly.com. And we're also on Facebook. Just follow us and search Southern New England Association of Black Journalists on Facebook and follow us there. And we usually keep posting announcements. I mean, that's part of my job with them, too. I usually post all the social media stuff so that we keep all of our peers in the loop of what's going on.
Nice. Thank you so much. And, Michael, could you just tell people where they could find you? Because I want people to be able to find you as well.
Absolutely. I'm on Twitter. Twitter is at Lyle Multimedia. That's Lyle Multimedia, all one word. You can also find me at that same handle on Instagram at Lyle Multimedia. And you can just search my name on Facebook, Michael Lyle Jr. So I'm all over social media.
Thank you so much, Lyle, for joining us today. You know, I'm so happy that you could be on the show. I appreciate, you know, the experiences I've had with you already. And I just want to close it out by saying, like, this is what we're going to continue to do on the show. A Crazy Dream. We're going to share stories of people who are dreaming but also doing, because like you said, action, that's what it's all about, especially when, you're moving with a purpose and you're teaching people in the process. That's amazing. So thank you so much, Lyle, for being on the show. Listeners, you can find more of these stories at acrazydream.com. You can find us on Instagram at acrazydream. And you can find us on Twitter at acrazydream36. Thanks, Smile, and hopefully you'll come back again in the future, and we'll check in with you again.
Absolutely. And listen, a crazy dream is a dream you can live out and be happy with.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Michael. All right, well, thank you, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.
Appreciate it, Tamika. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. Take care.
Take care now.
Bye.
Bye.